If you are an educator, whether that be in school or educating from home, and you are supporting a child with autism with a PDA profile, then this video is for you. PDA actually stands for pathological demand avoidance, but in our house with our son, we like to say that he has a persistent desire for autonomy. This isn't because he's just fussy or a little bit sensitive. He has autism and he is hugely anxious about losing any control. Anything that he doesn't have complete choice over puts him into fight or flight mode, and then he starts to either melt down or feel unable to do the activity asked. He has an anxiety-related drive to avoid everyday demands, whether they're spoken and kind of direct demands or silent demands. So the reason we're sharing this video is because we want to share with you the things that we've learned on our educating journey, and hopefully that will help you whether you're in school or home educating. I found out, I've got my notes here, that in 2018, the PDA Society conducted a survey of over 1,000 children with autism with a PDA profile. And sadly, this study revealed that 70% of these children were simply unable to be educated within school. The demands were just too high, and schools at that time were not flexible enough to support those children. And so they, therefore, were home educated. However, this got me thinking. This means that there are 30% of children, like my son, who have autism with a PDA profile, who are still in mainstream school. And I want to help those children. The first thing that we can do to really help our children with PDA is to ask yourself this question: do they need to? Now, I know that sounds really simple, but actually when you think about it, give them the choice. Do they need to wear the same school uniform as everyone else? Can a simple adaptation really help them? Do they need to get changed for PE? Do they need to go to yet another assembly? Do they need to complete all their homework? Is it essential, or is it better that they have a little bit of autonomy, which means that they can actually move forward the next day and keep their attendance going? Could I scribe for them? So could they give me as a TA the answer and I write that down because they simply can't face the task of doing another long piece of writing? All these things seem really simple, but actually they would make such a difference to our child with PDA. We as school staff members need to be as flexible as possible for these children, which I know is really difficult because so many schools' ethos is we are all treated the same. Well, that actually isn't true inclusion. If we can give our pupil or our child the ability to, let's say, be in the driving seat of their own education, I know within limits, but are we allowing this child? Can we maybe get them to sort out their own timetable, pick and choose which order they do things, which pencil colour they could use, as opposed to everyone using the same handwriting pen? And actually, if we're clever enough, and this is not to trick our PDA children, we're not about being manipulative, but if we know that we have a desired outcome that we need, if we're able to offer choices within that outcome, so let's say, for example, in your mind you're thinking we've got to do multiplication today, well, actually, can we let our pupil or our child choose which resources they use to help support them? Instead of doing it on paper like everyone else, can they maybe go on the computer and have a go at a multiplication game? We're still getting the desired result, but we're actually giving them choice. We're allowing their autonomy to be in charge of their education, and therefore they're less likely to go into fight or flight, and you're more likely to get their education going. Choose your words really carefully. This is where I struggle because I have ADHD, so things come out quickly before I can even really think about it. So I have to take a moment to think. When I need my son to do something, I have to try in my mind and script it. I don't want to say, you need to do this, help me with this. Those are demands. He is never going to be able to do that. I say things like, oh my goodness, I've had so much laundry to do. Is there any way you think you could help me by maybe taking up a basket? He's a kind kid. He's a lovely kid. He's going to take up the basket. And if he doesn't, I respect that choice. And it's not because he's being lazy. It's probably because he's overwhelmed. And sooner or later, he'll do it. But now wasn't the right moment. So allowing him to choose the time in which he did it was giving him autonomy. But it is really important to state at this point that there are non-negotiables. So for our children, the law is the law. You have to abide by it. Safety rules, fire drill, etc. I know it's going to be tough, and that is a demand, but they're not allowed to ignore that. We make our children listen to a fire drill for their own safety, and then we have to try and support the repercussions of that demand after the event. So our advice to you would be, as much as you can, empathise, validate and pick your battles. Always have in your mind, do they need to? If there is any shift at all, if there's any way for any flexibility, any way for any choice, you're really going to help that child.